Hey there, this is Clay with modernlove.life, and this is the Relationship Inner Game Experience. Now, before we go ahead and get started with this week's show, I want to let you know if you're enrolled in one of our courses, such as the X-Solution Program, Compatibility Code, Loving Boldly, or Dating Bravely, I'm actually currently taking on some coaching clients to work with over email. As you may or may not know, my wife and I are having a baby in a couple of weeks here, and because of that, I kind of thought that I wouldn't be able to do coaching for a while because I work from home and because, if there's a small baby in the house that might cry or something like that, at any given point in time, that didn't seem like it would be very good if you're on a coaching phone call with somebody to have all that going on in the background and like distracting you and everything like that. So I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it for a while, but then I had this thought, just sort of flashed through my mind that, hey, I could actually do coaching over email, right? That way if, the baby's crying, I can just get up and go take care of whatever she needs me to take care of, and then I can come back and collect my thoughts again and finish writing the sentence or the paragraph that I'm going through or whatever, right? And so that seemed like something that actually I could do. So I'm opening it up to people that are actually currently enrolled in any of our courses. The reason for that is because, if you're not enrolled in one of our courses, I could help you via coaching, but I would probably just be telling you a lot of the stuff that is already in our courses, and that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I want to work with people that have a firm, solid understanding about what we teach in our courses, and I want to work with them to help them take things to the next level from wherever they might be stuck right now. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and check out the Modern Love Association for details on that, or just feel free to reach out to one of our team members and they will go ahead and send you the application form for that. But I'm probably going to be taking people on next week, so if that's something that you're interested in, please don't dilly-dally too much longer, because that's probably going to be happening soon. Anyway, with that being said, this week I want to talk to you about an interesting idea that I've been carrying around in my mind a lot lately. And that is that as we go about our relationship life, our dating life, our life trying to work out our love life in whatever form that may take, it's often very common for people to take on thoughts and opinions about people in their life, right? You might say, oh, my partner is so stubborn. Oh, I can't believe this guy's being a jerk and he won't call me back. Or she never listens to me. She never shows appreciation or something like that, right? And so oftentimes when we do these sorts of things, we get sort of stuck in a way of thinking, a way of being. And as we get stuck in this way of being, it kind of closes us off from other possibilities that we might experience, that we might have in our dating or relationship life. And it closes us off from possibilities and opportunities that might exist in that world. And so what can be useful is to actually turn things around a little bit, right? Because I think on a psychological level, oftentimes we do project things that we are experiencing, that we are going through, that we are living in our own life onto other people. And so in order to use this as a tool for self-growth, I think it can be very useful to turn things around a little bit. So for example, if you're noticing that you think a lot, that maybe your partner is very stubborn, just try on the thought. Just try on the idea that maybe you're stubborn. Is there something that you're being stubborn about? Is there something that you're not being open to ideas or possibilities about in regards to your relationship with that person? I don't know. Maybe it's not true, but just go ahead and try that on, because it might actually open up some new ways of being or some new opportunities for you. If you think somebody is being a jerk because they won't text you back, could it possibly be that you're being a jerk to them because, I don't know, maybe you're keeping score about whether or not they're texting you. Maybe you're being a jerk because you're only focusing on this tiny little portion of your relationship with one another, which is the texting thing, and you're not focusing on something else entirely, like the quality of your emotional connection, or maybe listening to their feelings, or listening to their experience, or meeting them where they're at on an emotional level, or something along those lines, right? If you're just having these sorts of thoughts like that, oh, this person doesn't listen to me, are there ways that you don't listen to her, right? Are there ways that you don't listen to what she's going through, what her experience is? Are you not grateful for what she's bringing to the table, right? If you think that she's not being grateful to you. And so by simply just switching out these pronouns of, so-and-so is being blank to me or something like that. Just switch out the pronouns where it's I'm being blank to so-and-so, and just try that on. I'm not saying that you need to take it on as if it's the gospel truth. I'm not saying that you need to live your life that way or anything like that. I'm just saying that just try it on. If you can open yourself to that possibility, it can sometimes open up new worlds for you that otherwise weren't there. Just as an example, just as my wife and I are going through this pregnancy thing, I find myself thinking things like, oh, it's really frustrating that I have to do all of this stuff for her or whatever. And it can be easy to fall into that trap and to get kind of cemented in your way of thinking to the point that you don't really see anything beyond your own perspective. But if you can start to switch things around and start to see things from another perspective, it can actually start to open up new possibilities, right? So, maybe I'm frustrated that I have to help her around a whole lot more because she, her body's changing, she has less energy and all that stuff. But maybe it's also frustrating for her because she's unable to do all the things that she's normally been able to do, and that those are more difficult now or something like that. And once you can start to see things in this way, as an example, you can start to say, okay, well, now I can understand that, I can actually put my own ego aside and see that there's a person there who's maybe going through some frustration, and maybe I can do something to help her out instead of adding to that frustration, right? That's just an example. And again, I don't know what this might look like in your life, in your love life, in your dating life, in your relationship life, but again, this is something to try on, just something to experiment with. If it helps you out, if it gives you new insights or possibilities, then go ahead and pursue those and see where they go. Otherwise, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this week's questions from our students that are enrolled in our courses.
Okay, our first question is from JS. JS writes in and says, "Hi Clay, I've been practicing the advanced relational skills with people around me. When starting the X-Solution program, I met 2 new friends and I soon became close to them. As suggested, I was asking about their feelings, noticing things, and relating, as well as being vulnerable, revealing a lot about my emotional experience and my past. Since both friends aren't very much in touch with their emotions themselves, it wasn't always easy, but I kept trying. I suggested activities like you say, in composure, only to often find out that recently they had been meeting up without asking me to join. Especially one of them became distant, only agreeing to do stuff when the other friend was around, often saying judgmental things aimed at hurting me. I tried to ignore this for a while, but recently told her that I noticed that she is very critical of me, and that this made me sad and that I was unsure how to deal with the situation. Apparently she thinks that by asking about her feelings, I was intentionally trying to hurt her by rubbing it in. For example, when her boyfriend dumped her, I had noticed before that she seemed uncomfortable when I asked her about her emotions and empathized, as she had told me to stop analyzing her. After that, I backed off, but apparently too late. Then, I often asked about both of them to meet, speaking my mind about what I wanted to do and being vulnerable about my emotional situation. She perceived as neediness and that I was jealous of the connection between her and the other friend. She basically dumped me by ending our friendship. Maybe I could have shown more awareness sometimes. I surely made some mistakes, as you do when you practice new skills, but my trying to connect with her was by no means meant to hurt her. While her message to me was clearly intended to do so, she brought up things that I had vulnerably shared with them and used them to make me look and feel bad. It seems like my former friend perceives being vulnerable and showing emotions as weakness. Because they share this, my friends seem to be more drawn to each other. How do you suggest we approach people with advanced relational skills, connect with people who are so emotionally closed off, and use vulnerability against us?" Okay, so when it comes to situations like this, there's really a couple of things that could be going on. First of all, these people that you're trying to connect with, they might just be emotionally unavailable. They might just want to have interactions that revolve around surface level things like sports or TV shows or just, little small talk things. And, that's fine. That's okay if that's how they want to live their life. But you, as somebody who wants to create an emotional connection, you're going to have a hard time really interacting with people like that because those people don't want to go where you want to go. right? And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with you or there's anything wrong with them or anything like that. It's just that the two of you want different things when it comes to the people that you interact with and the people that you're connecting with and the people that you're surrounding yourself with. And so there's just going to be a natural sort of not being in sync with one another that happens as the two of you interact. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And this will play out as well in the relationship world as well, too. You know, if you are dating or interacting with somebody who is emotionally unavailable and is unable or unwilling to connect with you on an emotional level, that person just might not want to spend time with you. That person might pull away from you. That person might not want to commit to you, right? And that's not necessarily anything that you're doing wrong. It's not that your fault when that happens. It's just that these people just want something different than what you want. And there's nothing that you can necessarily do or say that's going to suddenly make these people want to gush out and spill their heart and soul out to you, because that's just, unrealistic thinking to expect that from somebody else, that you could say something, that you could do something, that there's some combination of magic words that you could string together that's going to cause somebody to be something other than what they are right now, right? And, sure, people do change all the time. But again, you're not there to manage that for them. You're not there to be responsible for their emotional growth, for their emotional development, whether they're your friend or whether they're some sort of romantic prospect, okay? And if you're wanting a deep emotional connection, then you're unlikely to get that from an emotionally unavailable person, either platonically or romantically. And that's okay. People that aren't on the same wavelength, so to speak, will just naturally repel each other. And that's not a bad thing. And it's better to let this happen sooner rather than later, rather than trying to, quote, force the relationship to work or force it to work or make it work or something like that. Because if the two of you just have different values, if the two of you just want different things in life, just forcing the friendship or the relationship to work is unlikely to bring joy to you or joy to them, because there's always going to be some level of inauthenticity between the two of you that's going to either present itself in big dramatic ways or in possibly just a sort of vague sense of disconnect between the two of you. The other thing that could be going on is that, as you mentioned, you may just have been unaware of the emotional impact that you are having on these people, right? And so that's why it's important to not just take the things that we talk about inside the ESP course as an example and then just say, okay, I'm going to remember the 2 magic questions and I'm just going to blurt them out all the time, right? Because that is what it sort of looks like to mimic some of the advanced relational skills, right? The advanced relational skills are not just remembering a bunch of lines and robotically saying them at certain points in time. They're about having the emotional experience of feeling the things and having the curiosity and having the empathy to actually say the things that we talk about inside the ESP course, right? The 2 magic questions, as an example, are just an example of what empathy might look like, of what curiosity might look like. You don't want to just turn off your brain and then say, okay, great, I've got empathy, I've got curiosity, I've got emotional acceptance down solid because I know the 2 magic questions. What you want to do is you want to try to get yourself into a place where they would naturally be the next thing that you would say, or something similar, something like that, right? Because you're not always just going to use the 2 magic questions. You might say something else entirely, like, I'm sorry to hear that you had a breakup. I just went through one of those myself not too long ago, and it's still pretty fresh in my experience, and I know that it can really suck, a lot of those feelings that you get after a breakup. Sometimes it's even just hard to listen to the radio sometimes. Just things like that, right? And it's not as if this is some sort of script for you to memorize or some sort of thing to memorize at all, but it's just about how can I actually put myself in this person's position, see the world from their point of view, and relate to them, knowing that their experience, their feelings are probably pretty similar to experiences and feelings that I've had in the past. And how can I use that to create a connection between the two of us? How can I create an emotional connection between our shared experiences? And so if assuming these people are not emotionally unavailable and they actually do want to have meaningful emotional connections with others in their lives, but you still had this impact on them, then it very well could be that you were just unaware that you were having this impact on them. You were unaware that you talking about their breakup or you asking for more details about their breakup was somehow making them uncomfortable, right? And this is often where there's that extra layer of emotional connection and curiosity and empathy, right? If you have the empathy to do more than just robotically read off lines, then you'll likely be able to put yourself in the other person's situation and say, okay, well, if I just went through a breakup, would I want to talk about it? Or if somebody just asked me, how does that make you feel? Is that going to come across as prying, or is that going to feel good on an emotional level? And here, me as Clay, just some guy sitting on the other side of the internet, reading your question and giving you my thoughts, I can't tell you the answer to that because I wasn't there in that conversation. I wasn't there listening to them talk to you. I wasn't there listening to you talk to them. I don't know. And what you have to do is you have to feel into the situation to learn what feels good in the moment. And it's not just going to be memorizing things or anything like that, but you have to start to actually put yourself in the other person's point of view and see things from their position, okay? So those are two possibilities that I see as to what might have happened in your particular situation here, JS. I hope that's helped you out, and please keep us updated if you have any other questions, maybe next week. This is from Sean. Sean writes in and says, "Hi Clay, thank you for your answer 2 weeks ago. A brief update. My ex backed off, as I predicted, when I asked to meet for ice cream. It, however, did not seem it was her reactance when I asked in person. It was Mother's Day weekend, so I kept my BS machine in check and took it as she was actually busy. Meanwhile, I am still processing my emotions. It does get me from time to time that she is sleeping now with someone else. It has been emotionally very difficult, but I tend to manage it somehow. I am taking your advice to work on myself before I reach out. I plan to ask her in 3 weeks or so since I am busy myself. However, when I do not want to come across as needy. I already asked her 3 times and it did not happen. My question is, how do you ask for something without coming across as needy? Also, you always mention that someone new is never a threat. What if they are having a stronger emotional connection? You advise to not keep score, but I feel that I have been struggling as I am the one initiating contact since December. It is very hard to make a stronger connection than the other guy under these circumstances. I was with her for 2 to 3 months, whereas this guy has now been around for 6 months. My connection did not grow as far as probably his has grown. I still recall with my ex, I guess the ex before this ex, I was not needy and was trying to build a connection, whereas she abruptly got rude. It was a simple question about her vacation. I had asked the same thing this time when I asked something simple. My ex replied with, "By the way, I'm seeing another guy to let you know." Okay, so your question is, how do you ask for something without coming across as needy? And the best way to do that is to simply just not be needy, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for things. That's how things happen in the world. That's how people end up in relationships. Hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? Do you want to be my boyfriend? That's how people end up getting married. Would you marry me? That's how people end up doing all sorts of other things. Would you give me a job? Would you want to do business with me? Would you sell this to me? Would you buy this from me? All of that. There's nothing necessarily needy about asking a question, unless you are coming from a place of being needy, right? So being needy is a place where you are coming from where you are unable to get what you need by yourself, and you are emotionally dependent upon someone else meeting that need for you, okay? And you are not okay unless you get your need met by that person under your circumstances, okay? That's really what neediness is. And so what you can do in order to not come across as needy is to look at what emotional need you are hoping that you get from your ex, and instead say, okay, is it really reasonable for me to place this need on another person? Is it really reasonable for me to place, I don't know, let's just say happiness in someone else's hands? You are responsible for my happiness. What you do will determine whether or not I am happy. What you say will determine whether or not I am happy. Now from there, let's go and ask you out on a date. No, that's not a great place to do it, right? the best thing to do is to be in a place of emotional acceptance, where you are accepting yourself, your life, the way that you are. You are accepting that you have responsibility for making sure that your own needs are met. Okay, you can be happy without your ex. You can be happy with your ex. You can be happy no matter what happens. And if you are happy, if you enjoy your life, if you are not just looking for some magic text message, but you're doing some of the big picture stuff that we talk about inside of our courses, such as building the 4 ingredients to an amazing, fulfilling life, and doing all of that stuff, then you should be naturally living a life that is uplifting to you, a life that you enjoy living, a life that really sparks you and turns you on. And once you start to do that, you can still ask for things, that's fine, but it's not going to come across as needy, because you're not needing the other person to provide happiness for you, because as this, in this example, you're already living a life that is causing you to experience happiness on a regular basis. And you're just like, hey, what's going on? Do you want to get together for ice cream tomorrow at such and such a time, right? There's nothing needy about asking something in that way, because you are actually emotionally okay with a yes or a no. Sure, you have a preference. You want her to say yes, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't bother asking, but you're emotionally okay with a yes or a no. It's not going to completely devastate you if she says no. And so that's why being needy is not a helpful way of being when it comes to relationships and dating in a lot of ways. I think that's pretty obvious to most people, and I hope I've explained why on an energetic level, right? Because when you are coming from a place of neediness, you are really surrendering what is your responsibility and saying, hey, my happiness is your responsibility. My well-being is your responsibility. Right? And that's not a very good offer. That's like, saying, hey, you want to be in a relationship with me? I'll let you be completely responsible for my emotions in addition to everything that's going on in your life, all the struggles that you're having in your life, all the challenges that you're having in your life. You can be in a relationship with me, and you can also take on my emotional world as well too and be responsible for that, right? That's not a very compelling offer to somebody out there, right? The thing that makes people want to be in a relationship with one another is when being in a relationship feels better than being out of the relationship. And when you're coming from a place of neediness, being in the relationship feels worse than being out of the relationship, which is why neediness repels other people on an energetic level, okay? The most important thing, I think, is to really look at your emotional world. Look at what you are expecting or wanting someone else to take care of for you, and ask yourself, how can I be responsible for my own happiness? How can I live a life that is going to actually be a life that I enjoy waking up in, whether or not I'm with another person, whether or not I have a relationship, whether or not I'm dating the person of my dreams? How can I live my life and let it be the best life, regardless of what my love life looks like, right? And once you can start to do that, that's when you'll start to overcome this neediness thing, okay? It's not about trying to put on some sort of act or play some sort of mind game or anything like that. It's really about whether or not you actually just enjoy your life the way that it is. So I hope this helps you out, and please keep us updated on how things go moving forward from here.
Okay, so those have been our questions for this week. Once again, if you've liked the Relationship Inner Game experience, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Go ahead and leave a comment down below, and please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so that you will get updates and notifications when we upload our next episode. Once again, this has been Clay with modernlove.life, and I hope that this has helped you improve your Relationship Inner Game.